All right, folks, hello and welcome back to part 27 of our Let's Play of the Letter. This is Downstage Gaming, and I'm your host, Josh. When we last left off, we saw sort of the movie night scene that we had done with Isabella before, but from Becca's perspective. We got sort of further clarification that she is not only jealous of Isabella because Ashton is clearly into Isabella, but it seems like also just kind of jealous of Isabella's sort of general state of being and way of life. I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into that or not, but that's what I see. And so they had sort of an argument on the way home that we hadn't seen before that was not totally helped by me making perhaps a poor decision there. And then on the car ride home, we had some spooky stuff happen with the Rose calling us on the phone again. Again, seems like there's some phone hacking abilities involved here with the ghost. I don't know. And then we also saw the creature in the backseat of the car and almost crashed and killed ourselves and Isabella. But here we are on a new day, and it begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives, like any other day before it, bright and clear. Now, I do want to see, are we... Okay, we're a few days ahead now, I think, if we're on Tuesday. Okay, so we've moved forward quite a bit. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still, no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Okay, now I do need to see for on Tuesday. That is interesting because this would mean that she wouldn't even be home because Tuesday would be the night that she got over to Zach's place. So she should be at Zachary's right now, I think. Chances are around this hour she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
I'm with you. It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. 4 a.m.! I mean, surely the chores can wait, and surely school doesn't start until, like, at least 7. I mean, maybe 6, if you're some kind of crazy place. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far, I've lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if I'd gain mom and dad's approval, or what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way. So maybe we should do more to try to get along with her.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose when she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. Ugh. Don't want to get the rich juices on me. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? So I'm going to assume that this is the invitation to the housewarming party? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academe naturally brought with it various connections, people from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much more personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here. The real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's a small thing as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. Why does it come to her then? I mean, she's not living with her parents. That's pretty weird. Phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mom, her voice as warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
I like that even for relatively small characters like Isabella's mom and Becca's mom here, they still have full voice acting.
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
Definitely not dying.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Read the whole thing, word for word.
Sorry, you are cordially. It's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party from Hannah.
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. Must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows? That's true enough.
Hannah.
Oh, the terrible girl, yes!
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two
God,
again.
You are such a jealous girl, Becca. It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meeting or symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how I become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now.
Right, the rich one, the one that's
Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca.
She tried to help you with the boys.
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think.
Wow, that's an impressive memory.
But they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there. But Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mom's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing, doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule.
Schedule?
It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
Okay, so presumably then she brings Ash? Yeah, because it was her, Ash, and Zach all there.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
God, Why is everyone like tease her about the fact that she likes food?
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her a number or something.
I will.
But you know, the two of you would have become really good friends.
If only you weren't in different social castes.
Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Who's Mandy? Mum must have sensed my confusion, because she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them.
With the rich folks.
Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I mean, it's pretty weird for her to say she was like a second daughter to me if your one daughter, like, barely even remembers the, like, one time they were together.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then, a hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago, when life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it, though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. You are, like, obsessed with Isabella and the way that Isabella does things, Becca. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. With a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So, with another sigh, I put everything in the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for my day, car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet, and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning, no need to wear a smile on your face, lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. I was wondering when this was gonna happen, because this should be the morning that Ashton comes over to Zach's place and is like, Becca's worried. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms on my
She
face.
hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direst circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary Ashton and I, that would have been the case. Can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her?
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly, so I don't disturb her, in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today, Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I'm fishing on a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. This is super... I mean, this key is super cool. Just the idea of a not, like, gold-colored or silver-colored key. And then this is very nice. It's just a nice key set, Becca. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for an answer, I push the door open and step inside. Our unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, papers strewn about everywhere, and an unkempt bed, among other things. This much is a given. Will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with a place in this state. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual, but she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. Unplug everything? That's interesting. Doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, it can only mean she hasn't been here since last night? Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death? Either idea doesn't sit well with me, what with the news we've been hearing lately. This would probably be a lot more freaky if we had gotten a different ending with Isabella, where, say, Isabella is not alive.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims.
No comment on employee's death. So, in this case, with that apostrophe there, multiple employees. The Anson Butcher case. Okay, so that's the name that I kept forgetting of the, like, serial killer or whatever. And they're all employees of BRC.
Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation
Most
at the
of
time
them.
of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Listen, it's all a coincidence. Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. But before that, I look at my journal to see if there's a fun picture. It's just some letters, so I go back to the phone call. It rings for a good minute, the sound of comfort in itself, but when another minute rolls by without her answering, well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bouts of temper, maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when I'm speaking. But it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail. A sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long, though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Okay, Fred's missing and you're worried, and the first thing you're gonna do is make a sarcastic remark.
Good one. Did you call this early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
I don't know why I made that joke.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick.
Make us quick.
I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
I do. I love this stupid morning ashtrays.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
He, like, almost sounds drunk.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from him. The moment... The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe.
This is
One
solid
person's not going
advice.
to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders, and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks as I sink on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. Same uninteresting news, but mass murder. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early, but for now, relying on the latter for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
Listen, she's not in a good place right now, Becca.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
You're not my mom, Becca.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know?
Says the person who keeps calling her scaredy cat.
That's because I'm flirting.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Oh, I don't think he's treating her like a student.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this.
I mean, to be fair, Zach knows, like, next to nothing at this point.
I'll check on her.
Bring her home. Sorry about that. Sounds like a lie if I ever heard one. The sort where he admits things so people won't fret. And I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after all the trouble he went through and how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? Ah! Man, even the smallest choices, I feel like... Sorry for the trouble. I can handle it. I think I want to say... Can I bring up the text log here? So he said, I'll check on her, I'll bring her home. And she's saying that, okay, yeah, you know what? I can handle it. I can handle it. Why does he have to go to such lengths for a person he met only 5 years ago? Uh-oh. We're blowing it with everyone. I wish I could ask him that. It's because he's in love. I wish I could simply say it to his face and finally get a straight answer from him, instead of doing whatever this is we're doing. Instead of beating around the bush. Has the years changed us this much? Has adulthood changed us this much?
You've done enough, Ash. Let me take it from here.
Ashton was quiet for a little while, but I can almost see the frown in him, hear the gears turning in his head.
Don't you have a class to teach today? Tuesdays are your busiest this school year, aren't they?
Yeah, but someone has to check on her. And I don't want to impose on you any further. I've already disturbed your sleep.
You're not imposing. Besides, I'm doing you a favor. I know you, Becca. You hate being late or missing a day of work for a very small thing.
You do seem like the type.
Leave this to me.
You said you're waiting for a call from the chief.
I'm dropping by the precinct anyway. There's some trouble I have to fix with those guys. It won't be completely out of the way.
I am so curious to get to Ash's chapter next.
Ashton,
Just to see what it is he does on like a day-to-day basis. I trail off. From the start, it's a losing battle. We may have been together for a long time, known each other for far better than other people, but that doesn't mean we often see things eye to eye. Time and again, it's a matter of agreeing to disagree. This is oft how the status quo is kept. Whenever it comes to this, I can only accept it begrudgingly.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
You too, Ash. I admit, the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that, so many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them all out in the opening, because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day, and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. From now, my concerns are best left here. Alright, well, unfortunately, I think he's gonna have to do us for this episode. A lot of phone calls, but some interesting more insight into some of Becca's other relationships with other cast members. Alright, so that's gonna do it for this time. This has been Downstage Gaming. I've been your host, Josh, and I will see you guys next time.